Hello again. I'm still here with Corey. So Corey, tell us about some of the other things that were released in the world of step functions yesterday. And be careful not to say anything that might be released in the future.
No, I'm not going to. I will be very careful. Let's talk first about HTTPS endpoints.
Yes.
I think this feature, for us to have this at a reInvent launch, I think is, last year we launched distributed map at reInvent, and we have seen some absolutely incredible use cases come through from customers using it.
So what's distributed map state?
What's that?
What is distributed map?
What is distributed map? That is,
going back to last year,
that is massive dynamic parallelism for state machines for applications. So basically, if you want to iterate or process a bunch of data, massive amounts of data, and originally you had a map state that would go into concurrent processing of things. Parallel processing of things, not concurrent. Pardon me. And you had a maximum concurrency of 40. You could have 40 individual map states running. Well, what distributed map does was took that concurrency to 1,000. So now you can have
1,000?
Oh, more than that.
10,000.
10,000.
Yeah.
Sorry, there's 1,000. Anyway, there's another limit in there for 1,000. It's an Easter egg. Whoever comes at me on Slack or on LinkedIn that tells me that limit, I'll give you one of my pins. So 10,000 concurrency. So you can iterate over massive amounts of data, process it, order of magnitude quicker than you could before, and then have those outcomes be written out into an S3 bucket.
I think the reason why the distributed map state was such a huge launch is because serverless is all about breaking down tasks into smaller tasks that you can run in parallel, right?
Yes.
To produce faster results.
Yes.
And the distributed map state is the best example of that, using the power of parallelism to
100%.
produce that.
Yep.
So, okay, going back to yesterday.
Yeah. So why that for us? I just wanted to give some context on the size and scale of that launch and how we felt about it at the time. It was in a keynote. It was in Werner's keynote. It was huge news for all of us. We loved it. I think HTTPS endpoints is bigger because this is the ability for step functions to now call any SaaS solution or internal API that you may have running in your own system, and it basically takes step functions out into the world, essentially. So that makes, right now you would have to build, a bunch of shim functions or a bunch of, custom logic, custom calls, custom permissions to manage all of this stuff. And now you have just another task state in step functions called HTTPS. You can pull it in and, call your Stripe, call Salesforce, call, in your SaaS provider here. So we're super excited about that. I think it's going to be, a transformational launch because now it lets step functions play in a much broader field.
And it can also call your own microservice endpoint, right?
Exactly.
A SaaS provider.
I called that out. Yeah, if you have your own endpoint, your own API that you're running internally, you can call into that, provided you have the right security and the right permissions, the right role.
So
it works.
When I set it up, how can I know if the HTTP call that I made is going to work? Like,
I love how you segue these things. It's almost like what I need to talk about.
Almost.
Brilliant. How are you going to know that your credentials are right, that what you're passing in is right? Well, we've introduced another thing. This is one of the other launches. It's called the Test State API. Now, the Test State API allows you to mock or call out to a service integration and get its response in the level of detail that you need. So you can get, when you get the response back, you can get just a very, what was the code? Was it 200, 400, 500? What happened? There's a little bit more. You can interrogate it a little bit more to get some of the input-output processing results. So what arguments or what parameters did I pass in, and what am I getting back? And then you can go all the way down and get raw logs or raw responses back from the API that you're calling. So it's where pick your level of detail and go for it. So I'm also really excited about that one too.
And if you're building in the console, you can literally select the states, not just for HTTP states, is it? You can run this on any task state.
You can test any task
state. So I can give an input payload. Yep. I can invoke my Lambda function as a test invocation and receive the response. So I don't actually have to run my whole workflow in order to check how it's going to react to different inputs.
That's right. Yeah. And your workflow, that's a really good point, because your workflow, when you're running the test state API on a given task or state, whatever you want to call it, that doesn't invoke your workflow. It's not an execution of a workflow at all. It's just an invocation of that state, and it runs and returns. So there, I won't say for sure if it's in your execution history. I have to find that out. A little bit more detail.
Cool. All right. Should we do another video and talk about something else that went out a couple weeks ago?
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's do it on another video.